Hey there. Tonight you'll learn why you wouldn't last a day in ancient Greece. Not the Greece of gods and heroes, but the real one. The one with broken sandals, rotting olive oil, and fields that crack your hands before noon. You won't be a philosopher or warrior. You'll be someone beneath memory, scraping by, unseen. Every breath is borrowed, every step barefoot. Hunger is constant, the heat heavier than thought. And still, you go on. Not because you must, but because no one notices when you don't. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let yourself slip into the story. It's early summer in a small inland village not far from the fields. Your home is a low mud brick structure, shared with too many others, and not a single window to let in the air. The floor beneath you is packed earth, uneven and cool in some places, damp in others. You sleep on a mat stuffed with coarse straw, flattened from months of weight. The smell of old wool and human breath hangs heavy in the air. Someone shifted in their sleep beside you hours ago and hasn't moved since. You can't see anything yet, but the warmth against your skin tells you the sun is close. Not up, but near. The heat seeps in early, as it always does, clinging to your chest and the back of your neck. You open your eyes, but the room is still dark. There's no fire, no lamp. Just the gray texture of pre-dawn pressing in through the doorway's cracks. Your back aches. One arm is asleep. The muscles in your legs twitch from yesterday. You're not ready, but you rise. Not because of obligation, simply because your body knows the rhythm. There's a day ahead, and the body remembers what the mind does not need to. The air in the house tastes of clay, sour milk, and something faintly organic. Perhaps someone's breath, perhaps the bucket in the corner. You shift your legs and feel the grit of yesterday's dust against your calves. There's no privacy here, and there's no stillness. Someone's already murmuring in the far corner. It might be a prayer. It might be a cough. You sit up, and your joints answer with quiet complaints. Your shoulder cracks as you twist. You rub your face, but it doesn't clear the haze. You slept, but didn't rest. You never do. There is no point in longing for comfort. That's not what this place is built for. You reach for the cloth beside you and wipe your hands on it before pulling it across your waist. It's the same one you wore yesterday and the day before. It smells of smoke and skin. You pull it tight and knot it without looking. Your fingers know the shape. As you stand, the floor feels cooler than you expected, and your heels crackle from dryness. You step carefully. There are stones, slivers of wood, perhaps even insects underfoot. Your left knee twinges. There's no time to favor it. There's no one to replace you. In the dimness, shapes begin to take form. Baskets, pots, a half-eaten piece of bread, a bowl covered with cloth. Someone sleeping against the wall, their back bare, the outline of their ribs visible with every slow breath. You don't wake them. You don't say anything. Your silence is part of the morning. You step outside, into air that's already warmer than it should be. The yard is just packed dirt with a few stones. Chickens scratch in the corner. A clay jug sits near the wall, its lid off, a trail of ants leading toward its base. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then stops. The sun still hasn't risen, but light is building. Not enough to see clearly, just enough to feel watched. You urinate against the wall. There's no latrine. Just this spot, worn down over years. The smell is sharp, but familiar. It mixes with the smell of dung, ash, and animals. A few feet away, a pair of cracked sandals lies in the dust. You step into them, adjusting the twisted leather strap. It digs into your skin. You feel the grain of the ground through the thin sole. It doesn't help, but it makes a difference. The morning has no conversation, no breakfast table, no fire crackling, just the slow arrangement of limbs into motion. You look to the sky, still gray, still wide. Today will be hot. You can feel it not in the air, but in your bones. You don't sigh. You don't stretch. You don't complain. You just move toward what comes next. Because the sun is coming. Because the soil won't wait. Because this is what waking up means. You step into the yard while the sky is still gray. The ground under your feet is already warm, already giving off a faint smell. Earth, old straw, ash, and something less specific but more persistent. The chickens scatter as you pass, feathers rustling in irritation, not fear. The edge of the yard is worn bare, not from sweeping or care, but from use. The same spot used by everyone, every day, without thought. There's no shelter, no screen, no distinction between private and shared. Just a trampled patch near the wall, beside a pile of discarded straw and broken pottery, slightly sunken from repeated use. The flies are already there. They rise when you approach, slow and lazy, not because they're startled, but because they always return. You know not to breathe too deeply, not because of the smell, that's familiar, but because the still air clings to everything. Your stomach grumbles softly, not from hunger yet, but from the dull unrest of another hot day to come. You crouch, balancing carefully, pulling your cloth aside with one hand, while the other steadies you against the wall. The clay is rough under your fingers and still damp from the morning. There's a faint chalky residue where the wall meets the ground, stained from time and use. You look away from it, not out of shame but from the sheer lack of novelty. Relieving yourself is not a moment of peace. It's routine. It's physical. There's no sense of privacy. The chickens are nearby, still scratching. One pauses, staring at you with indifferent interest. Somewhere across the wall, someone else is doing the same. You can hear the splash, the rustle of cloth, the shifting of weight. These things happen near each other, not together, not apart, just near. There's no embarrassment left in it, only function. You wipe yourself with a handful of old straw from the pile. It's dry, brittle, and not particularly clean, but it's what's there. A splinter from the stalk scratches your hand. You don't look at it. You don't need to. You've done this too many times. There's a broken shard of pottery sticking out of the dirt near your foot. Someone probably dropped it weeks ago. No one cleaned it up. It doesn't matter. The yard is full of things no one owns. Stains, cracks, crumbs of other days. You shift your weight to stand, feeling the tightness in your knees. The sandals dig into the sides of your feet again, reminding you of the split leather you didn't fix last night. You forgot, or just didn't bother. You stand still for a moment after, not resting, just rebalancing. The sun is not yet up, but the yard is lighter than it was when you first stepped outside. The mud walls have turned from black to dull orange in the dim light. A breeze stirs, but it carries no relief, only more of the same. Warmth, dust, and the soft ammonia tang of waste baked into the ground. The smell isn't strong anymore, not because it faded, but because your nose stopped caring. A dog somewhere is barking again, hoarse and persistent, echoing against the walls like a cough that no one treats. Someone opens a door nearby, a creak, a grunt, the muffled clink of a pot being moved. You don't turn to look. It's the same as always. Morning begins not with sound, but with repetition. Everything happens the same way, in the same order. You move back across the yard slowly, stepping around the patches of flattened dung and wet straw. Your heel slips once, catches on something slick, but you steady yourself with a hand on the wall. The clay is flaking, warm and powdery under your palm. You wipe it off on your cloth, adding another smear to what's already there. You look down and notice that your foot is damp. You stepped in something. You don't care what. You wipe it half-heartedly against the ground, the dry dust clinging more than cleaning. There's a faint itch along the edge of your ankle, where your cloth rubs the skin. You scratch it without bending, fingers working beneath the hem, then let it go. The sky is lighter now, not bright, but no longer silent. A rooster begins to call somewhere distant. It sounds cracked, as if the bird is older than it should be. You feel the shift in your body, not readiness, but resignation. The act of waking is complete. There is nothing left to prepare. The rest of the day will not wait. You walk toward the corner where the water jug sits, already thinking about the next thing. A drink, a piece of bread, the tools, the strap, the walk. You're not hungry yet, not truly, but your stomach is already measuring how long it will take. The clay jug is sealed with a cloth stone. You'll reach for it soon. Not now. First, you roll your shoulders once, slowly. Something clicks. Something stretches. Your back is damp with sweat already, though the sun is still just a promise behind the hills. You don't wipe it away. There's no point. It will return before it dries. It always does. The clay jar stands near the doorway, half shaded, half lit by the rising glow. It has no lid, only a torn scrap of linen stretched loosely over its mouth, held down with a stone that's too light to matter. Flies land there anyway, crawling along the edges, dipping toward the moisture. You brush two away without urgency, not because you want to, but because it's what you always do. Your fingers grip the neck of the jar. It's rough, chalky, and slightly warm already, though it hasn't been touched since last night. You tilt it carefully. The water moves with a dull slosh, not refreshing, not clean, just present. It smells faintly like mold and old clay. Not strong enough to turn your stomach, but enough to remind you that this isn't spring water or even well water. It's storage, collected days ago, maybe longer. There's sediment at the bottom, grit, dust, something greenish. You don't stir it. You just bring the lip to your mouth and drink. The water is warm, almost body temperature, and it carries the flavor of everything around it. The clay, the dust in the air, the old rope that once sealed the jar. You drink slowly, not out of choice, but because you've learned to. Swallowing too fast brings cramps. You take in just enough to wet your throat, then a little more because thirst isn't about satisfaction. It's about keeping ahead of dizziness. Your tongue feels swollen. Your lips crack at the corners. Even in the cool of morning, your body is already short on liquid. You know what will happen if you don't drink now. The headache will come by midday, the kind that starts behind the eyes and spreads like heat. So you drink, and it goes down rough. The aftertaste is almost sour. You pause, lower the jar, wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. The cloth at your waist has a wet patch from where the jar dripped. You don't mind. You're used to being damp before the day even begins. Others have drunk from the same jar. You can see the darkened lip, the marks of fingers around the neck. No one bothers with cups. The jar is communal, and no one asks whose mouth came before. You lift it again for a second drink, quicker this time. Despite the film that floats along the top, a dead insect sticks to your upper lip. You flick it away without thought. When you drink, your jaw aches slightly on one side, where a tooth cracked last winter. The cold doesn't hurt anymore. There is no cold. But the uneven pressure always reminds you. You shift your weight from one foot to the other. The sandals grind dust into your heel. You're thirsty, but there's no pleasure in it. Just process. You drink to coat your throat, to calm your stomach, to fill the hollow space that always feels a little too empty and a little too tight at the same time. Water here is not a relief. It's just survival, stored in clay, flavored by time. You set the jar back down with care. The ground beneath it is permanently darkened from years of small spills, a ring of wetness that never truly dries. Your hand smells like the jar now, earthy, old, a little sour. You rub it against your cloth again, smearing dampness into the folds. Around you, the air thickens. It doesn't feel fresher after the water. It feels heavier. Your stomach is no longer dry, but it's not content either. The first swallows always remind you how much more you need. But you don't take more. You leave the jar with enough inside for others. There's no rule, no schedule, just habit. You move away from it slowly, feeling the water inside you settle like a small stone. Not painful, not welcome, just there. You glance toward the roof, where light is beginning to catch on the curve of the clay tiles. Another day is coming, loud and dry. You've taken your water. It will have to be enough. You sit on the edge of a low stone ledge just outside the doorway, where the morning air moves slightly more than it does inside. There's a piece of yesterday's bread wrapped loosely in cloth, coarse, flat, and hardening at the edges. It was baked 2 days ago, maybe 3. No one keeps track. The top is dry and brittle, the bottom slightly damp where it touched the cloth overnight. You open the bundle slowly, brushing off a few crumbs and one black speck that might be ash or insect. The bread cracks when you bend it. Not completely, but enough to show it won't yield without effort. There's no scent. It's flour, water, time, and now dryness. You take a piece small enough to fit in your hand and break it in half. The crust flakes off in uneven shards. You chew with the side of your mouth, slowly, letting your teeth find the softest angle. The first bite is always the worst. The second, no better. Beside the bread is a small, shallow bowl of oil. Olive, old, cloudy at the edges. It's been poured and repoured, reused until the bottom carries a sediment you don't stir. The smell is sharp, not spoiled, not rotten, but bitter, almost metallic. You dip the bread into it anyway, not for taste but texture. The oil softens the crumb just enough to prevent injury. It doesn't blend, doesn't absorb. It coats. You raise the piece to your mouth. Oil drips along your fingers. You lick them without thinking. They taste like yesterday's smoke and this morning's clay. You take another bite and your jaw works slowly. One of your teeth hums with a dull ache. You press your tongue to it as you chew. The bread resists, even softened. You don't sigh. There's no complaint. Just another bite. Just another swallow. It goes down with effort. pushing against a throat that never truly feels moist enough. No one speaks. The others nearby, family, neighbors, bodies too familiar to notice, are eating too. Or sitting. Or just waiting for the next thing. There is no gathering, no conversation. The act of eating is private, even when done among others. You hear someone cough, someone shift their weight. A bowl clinks against stone. You don't look up, not out of rudeness, but because nothing there will add anything to this moment. You take another piece of bread, smaller this time, dip it, bite, chew, swallow. The oil grows more bitter with each mouthful. Maybe it sat in the sun yesterday. Maybe it's simply old. You don't know. You don't ask. Your stomach isn't full, but it has something in it now. That's enough to keep the hands steady when the work starts. You run your fingers along the cloth again, catching leftover crumbs. They stick to your fingertips. You lick them off. They taste like dust and memory. There's one more piece of bread. You leave it in the cloth. Not out of politeness, not out of fullness, just habit. Someone else may take it later, or it will be saved, or forgotten. You wipe your hands on your thigh. The oil leaves a stain, but the fabric is already stained from days before. You fold the cloth over what remains, tuck it aside, and sit for a moment longer. Your back itches. The sun is climbing. A beam of light has reached the yard now, catching the edge of the jug you drank from earlier. The warmth begins again. The quiet will end soon. You feel your stomach settle, not comfortably, but obediently. You've eaten. It's not a meal, not really. It's an act, a step in the day. And now that it's done, you rise. You don't stretch. You don't speak. You just move, slowly, toward the tools stacked against the wall, already thinking about the first task. The weight of the basket, the length of the walk. The bread sits in your belly like a stone. It always does. The tools rest in the same corner they always do, leaned against the mud brick wall. Their handles worn smooth where your hands have gripped them 1,000 times. There's no rack, no shelf, just habit and memory to keep them in place. You crouch beside them and lift the sickle first, testing the blade with your thumb. It's dull, as usual, and you don't have anything sharp enough to fix it. Still, it'll cut if you pull hard and fast. The handle is wrapped in twine that bites into your palm, but you ignore it. Beside the sickle is the coil of hemp rope, frayed at the ends, still crusted with something dry from last week. Maybe mud, maybe something worse. You shake it once and sling it over your shoulder, letting it settle into the familiar groove near your neck. Then the basket, wide, shallow, patched with rawhide where one corner split last spring. It creaks when you lift it. The creak is always there. You hold it by the rim and feel how uneven the bottom has become. It will wobble. You'll adjust, as always. The sun creeps higher while you work. Its warmth stretches along the ground like a hand, reaching your bare ankle and lingering there. You sit on a flat stone and raise your foot to your knee. The sandal strap snapped days ago, but you haven't had the time to fix it properly. You tear a strip from the hem of your tunic, not a large one, just enough to bind. The edge is rough and already fraying, but it will hold for a while. You thread it through the cracked leather loop, knotting it twice, then wrapping it around your ankle. The knot digs into your skin when you stand, but it's better than walking barefoot on thorns. The left sandal holds, though the sole is separating near the toe. You push it back down and hope the dust will seal it into place. You adjust both feet, testing your balance. The sandals don't match. They haven't in years, but they cover skin, and that's what matters. You shift the sickle to your other hand and glance at the cloth you tore. A few more strips and the tunic will need mending. But not now. You walk to the edge of the yard and lean the basket against your hip. It's heavier when empty than it should be, Shasun. You check the knots again, pulling each strap tight, feeling how the fabric cuts into your fingers. Your skin is already raw from yesterday, but there's no time to rest it. The sun has cleared the roofline now, bright and indifferent. A thin shadow stretches from the wall behind you, already starting to shrink. You roll your shoulders, letting the rope dig in deeper. The weight is uneven. It always is. There's no time to fix it. You adjust by leaning slightly to the left, a habit so old you've forgotten when it started. The air smells like warm stone and chicken droppings. Somewhere nearby, a pot breaks. No one reacts. A dog barks and goes quiet again. The village is beginning to wake, but not with sound, with motion. You lift the basket fully now, brace it against your thigh, and take one last look at the doorway behind you. No reason to linger. No one's calling your name. As you step toward the road, your sandal catches for a moment on a root buried shallow in the dirt. The makeshift strap holds, but you feel it shift, tightening the knot further into your skin. It burns slightly. You walk anyway. Every movement has weight. Every object presses in its own way. The sickle taps gently against your thigh. The rope swings once and settles. The basket squeaks again. Your fingers curl tighter around the edge. Your shoulders dip. Nothing is comfortable, but nothing breaks. You've gathered your things, and now the day begins in truth. Not with eating, not with waking, but with the carrying. You know the way forward. You've walked it too many times to count. The dust kicks up at your heels. You don't look back. There's nothing behind you but dry bread, bitter oil, and the soft imprint your body left on the earth floor, already fading in the light. The path to the fields begins just beyond the last house, where the stone ends and the dirt begins, pressed flat by countless feet and the weight of cartwheels that never quite follow the same line. You know it by heart. It curves gently between low walls built without mortar, just stone stacked on stone, barely holding their shape. Grass doesn't grow here, only dust, pale and dry, lifting in fine clouds with every step. Your sandals slap against the ground, leather on grit, leather on grit. The strap rubs harder now, biting into the raw skin above your ankle where the cloth knots have already absorbed your sweat. You shift your weight as you walk, trying to balance the basket and rope, but the road is uneven and your knees still ache from yesterday. Ahead of you, a man walks with a limp, dragging a tool over one shoulder. You don't speak. He doesn't turn. The morning is not for talking. It's for moving forward while the heat still allows it. Small stones jab through the worn soles of your sandals. Some lodge there, pressing into your skin with each step until you pause to shake them out. Not with frustration, only routine. The sky is pale blue now, almost white at the horizon. There are no clouds, just a blank openness that promises heat and no shelter. You pass an overturned pot near the wall, cracked in two, half buried in dust. No one picks it up. No one remembers when it broke. Farther down, a length of rope lies coiled and flattened, bleached from the sun, like a fossil of a tool no longer needed. The village is behind you now. You can still hear it faintly. A goat bleating, someone calling a child's name, the distant clatter of something wooden falling. But the farther you walk, the quieter it gets. Not silent, never that, but emptied of voices. What remains are the small sounds, the creak of your basket, the rasp of your breath, the squeal of a wheel turning unevenly on some cart far ahead. The road begins to slope slightly upward. The sun angles into your eyes. You squint against it, but there's no relief. Your hand itches where the rope rests. You adjust the strap, but it makes no difference. The skin is already red beneath it, already warm and damp. Dust clings to the sweat on your arms, your neck, your chest. Every part of you carries the weight of motion. You pass a fig tree on the left, its lower branches stripped clean, the upper ones too high to reach. You think, just for a moment, of the taste of one ripe and cold. But that's not for now. That's for someone who isn't late, who doesn't carry tools, who doesn't work. A cart approaches from the opposite direction, pulled by a pair of oxen. Their hooves kick up more dust. The driver nods at you without expression. You step to the side, pressing against the brittle stone wall as the cart creaks past. One wheel wobbles violently. You hear the driver curse under his breath. You keep moving. The fields begin to appear, first as a change in color, then texture. The dust gives way to compacted soil, furrows, patches of green. You can smell the faint sourness of growing things, plants struggling in poor soil under a pitiless sun. The path divides, though everyone walks the same way. Your feet follow the track without thinking. You've walked it so often that the distance means nothing, only the slope, only the time it takes. The sun is higher now. The sweat doesn't cool you, it only stings. You wipe your brow with the back of your hand. Dust streaks across your forehead. A fly lands on your neck. You don't bother to swat it. Your mouth is dry again already, though you drank earlier. The water never lasts. The weight of the sickle, the pull of the rope, the pressure of the basket. They all grow heavier with each step, not because they increase, but because your body remembers what's coming. The work, the bending, the lifting. The sun above and always watching. You reach the edge of the field. You don't stop. There's no gate, no beginning, just continuation. You step forward into the dirt. The work begins without a signal, without a pause. You drop your basket near the edge of the plot and crouch beside the first row, your knees already resisting the motion. The ground is dry, cracked in places, but soft enough in others to swallow your foot if you step wrong. The first weeds give way easily, thin and shallow-rooted, but they leave dust on your hands and a bitter smell that clings to your fingers. You pull them in clusters, tossing them aside, not caring where they fall. Some land on your feet, some don't. You'll crush them later or step over them tomorrow. You move forward by instinct. Bend, pull, cut. The sickle slips into the base of a creeping vine, and the stalk snaps clean. The sound is dull, not sharp. Nothing here is sharp anymore. You wipe your hand on your thigh and reach for the next one. It's just the beginning, but already your breath is uneven. Not heavy, not labored, just distant, as if your body has begun to separate from itself to survive the repetition. The sun finds your neck within minutes. It crawls across your skin, a slow pressure, not hot at first, just present. You bend again, this time deeper, reaching for a cluster of tangled roots near a patch of brittle grass. The soil here has hardened. You dig with your fingers, then with the sickle. The blade scratches stone, then slips. A jolt shoots up your wrist. You shake it out and keep going. There's no space for injury, only adjustment. You shift your stance, lean the other way. Your back pulls in protest. Dust kicks up with each motion, hanging in the air, settling into your nostrils, your throat. You cough once. It doesn't help. You rub your face with the back of your hand, smearing sweat and dirt together. A fly lands on your ear. You flick it away. It returns. You flick again. It returns. Eventually, you stop trying. The heat thickens around your shoulders like a cloth soaked in warm oil. The cloth at your waist is already damp, already clinging in places it shouldn't. You don't adjust it. There's no point. It will be worse soon. You reach the next row and start again. The vines twist in loops, some alive, some already dead but still clinging. You pull, and they come loose with a sound like tearing skin. A handful of leaves crumble in your grip. You throw them aside and move forward, 1 foot at a time, carving a slow arc through the dirt. Your knees burn. Your lower back aches with every shift of weight. But the movement continues, not by choice, but by rhythm. You cut, pull, gather. You stack the pieces into uneven piles that collapse as soon as you turn away. The sun rises higher. The shadow you cast grows shorter. The flies multiply. One finds the open spot where your sandal strap rubbed the skin raw. You hiss and slap, catching only the pain. Your fingers sting from the salt of your own sweat. Your shoulders itch. Your elbows are streaked with mud from when you knelt too fast and caught yourself on your hands. You keep moving. Your hands remember what to do long after your head stops thinking. The sickle grows heavier as the blade dulls, or perhaps your grip weakens. The rope across your chest shifts every time you reach too far, rubbing the same line across your collarbone again and again. You look down and see the first dark spot forming on your tunic. Not from water, but blood or sap, you're not sure. You wipe your hand again, but everything you touch is the same texture now. Grit, sweat, and the faint stickiness of crushed plants. You glance up only once to see how far you've come. It's not far. The field stretches ahead, identical row after identical row. The others work in silence. One coughs, one groans, no one speaks. You bend again, the same position, the same weight. Your body folds along its habitual lines, not with grace, but with inevitability. You don't think about when you'll stop. That isn't part of the work. The work is the bending, the pulling, the cutting, again and again and again. The bundles are rough, uneven, heavier than they look. Twigs, vine, cut grass, everything gathered into loose armsful, bound quickly with rope or twisted stems. The moment you lift the first, your arms resist. Not loudly, not sharply, but in that slow, familiar way that speaks of yesterday's weight still lingering in the joints. The bundle shifts as you rise, awkward and top-heavy, forcing you to lean to one side just to balance. You brace it against your shoulder and feel the dry ends pressing into your collarbone through the cloth, poking through the thin weave and scratching the skin. The twine around the base digs into your forearm. You adjust your grip once, twice, but it never sits comfortably. There is no comfortable. There is only movement. The heat rises from the earth and sinks from the sky, trapping you in the space between, and your arms begin to tremble almost immediately. Not violently, just that soft internal shiver that tells you, this can't last long, but it must. You take the first step forward, and your knees absorb the jolt of the shift. The weight pulls unevenly across your spine. Every step jars something loose, a breath, a heartbeat, a bead of sweat that breaks loose and slides down your back. You walk slowly, not because of caution, but because speed would cost more than time. The field blurs behind you. The house is still distant, the piles of older cuttings not yet reached. You pass others carrying their own burdens, some heavier, some lighter, none speaking. One man adjusts a strap with his teeth. A woman pauses, just for a second, then resumes with the same dead pace. Your arms ache more with each step. The muscles throb in time with your pulse. The rope rubs your fingers raw, and you switch hands, but the pain doesn't move. It simply relocates. You feel every knot in the bundle pressing into your chest. Sap smears across your tunic. It leaves dark marks that stiffen as they dry. The air is thicker now, and even the dust seems tired. By the time you reach the halfway point, your grip has failed once. The bundle slipped slightly, nearly tore free. You caught it in time, but not without cost. Your wrist bent at a strange angle, and your shoulder gave a warning twinge. You don't stop. There's no place to set anything down without collecting more dirt, more ants, more sweat. You shift again, letting the weight rest against your neck for a few steps, the pressure numbing the skin there. It helps until it doesn't. Then it burns again. The thinnest branches break and crackle near your ear. You hear their stiffness more than your own. Each step sinks slightly into the dust, soft and warm beneath your feet. A layer of memory from 1,000 feet before yours. You feel yourself tilt slightly left now, unconsciously adjusting for the pain in your hip, the sting in your forearm, the numbness creeping into your fingers. You don't look ahead. There's no use. You measure progress by how long you can keep walking before you have to stop, and you haven't stopped yet. The pile comes into view, a stack of older bundles, already drying in the sun, waiting for whatever comes next. Cart, fire, feed. You don't know. You don't ask. You reach it and lower your load carefully, trying not to drop it, though your hands scream for release. It hits the ground harder than you mean, raising a puff of dry fragments and dust. You straighten slowly, feeling your spine protest each inch of return. Your arms hang useless at your sides for a moment, trembling, tingling, then slowly beginning to belong to you again. The cloth at your shoulder is soaked. The skin beneath is red and raw. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand, leaving a streak of greenish sap mixed with dust. Someone behind you approaches, another bundle in their arms. You step aside, no words exchanged. No one needs to say anything. You both know this rhythm: lift, carry, drop, return. The day is long and the field waits. You shake out your hands once. The trembling doesn't stop. Still you turn. Still you walk back. The next bundle is already waiting. It happens between steps, a sharp pinch, sudden but familiar, somewhere just behind the ball of your foot. You pause for less than a breath, shift your weight forward, and feel it again. Deeper now, pressing into flesh softened by sweat and dust. You know the feeling. A thorn, probably from a vine you crushed without seeing, or something broken left behind in the dirt. You don't look. There's no time. And even if you did, What would you do? Oh, you're not going to take the sandal off. You're not going to sit. You shift again, adjusting your gait slightly, letting your heel absorb more of the load, dragging the foot a little to avoid pressure. It helps for a step. Then the pain settles into its rhythm, pulsing each time your foot meets the earth. It's not sharp anymore. It's not loud. But it's there. Constant. Tight. Like a stone caught in the edge of your mind. And still you move. The next bundle waits. The same weight. The same awkward balance. The same scraping of twine against skin. You lift it with a grunt. Not of effort, but of memory. Your body recalling how much this will cost. The thorn presses again. You grimace barely. Not from pain, but from the knowledge that it will be worse tonight. The sweat from your legs soaks into the edge of the sandal, turning the strap into a wet rope that tugs with every step. The thorn doesn't shift. It stays where it is, buried just deep enough to matter, not deep enough to bleed. You imagine it, small, barbed, brown or black, just under the skin. But you don't stop. You never stop for this. You keep walking, adjusting your weight more now, letting the opposite leg carry more than it should. That knee begins to ache in return, a protest against compensation. But there's no room for fairness. One leg suffers, the other picks up the slack. The work continues. The pain becomes background noise, folding into the heat and thirst and weight. You forget it for a moment while lifting the bundle onto the drying rack. Then, stepping down, it spikes again. Your foot twists slightly in the sandal, and the thorn shifts just a little deeper. You hiss through your teeth but say nothing. No one around you reacts. They didn't hear, or they did and chose not to. You look down, only for a moment. The heel of the sandal is dark with dust and sweat. There might be blood, but it doesn't show through the grime. You flex your toes once. Pain. Still there. Still sharp. But you walk. You walk because you have to. Because the bundle must be returned. Because the next load isn't going to carry itself. You wonder, briefly, if you'll pull the thorn out tonight. Maybe. If you remember. If you care. If it hasn't worked its way deeper by then, disappearing into the skin, becoming part of you. The return walk is slower. Not much, but enough to feel. You don't limp exactly. Limping would be a statement. You shift, that's all. A subtle correction in balance. A minor change in how your hips move, how your foot lands. The thorn reminds you of itself every third step, every dip in the ground, every twist in the path. It will swell. You know that. The flesh will puff around it. If you leave it long enough, it might push its way back out. That's happened before. A small black tip rising from red skin like a splinter. But that's tomorrow's problem, or the next day's. Today, it's just something else you carry. Not in your hands, not on your shoulders, but inside your foot, under your weight, beneath the day. The field waits. The bundles wait. You walk forward. You lift again. The thorn doesn't care. Neither do you. You work anyway. The sun has climbed past the roofs now, past the treetops, past even the shade of morning excuses. It sits directly above you, unmoving, pulsing, pressing. There is no breeze, not even the kind that stirs dust or ripples the edges of cloth. The air thickens, becoming something you wade through rather than breathe. Each movement pushes against heat like a weight. The top of your head feels exposed, as if the sun is peeling your scalp from the inside out. Your hair, hair traps the warmth, and your skull begins to hum with it, slow and low. Sweat forms first at the back of your neck, then your spine, then the crooks of your elbows and the backs of your knees, running in slow, itchy trails that you have neither time nor energy to wipe away. You blink constantly now. Salt from your brow slides into your eyes, burning like ash. You wipe at it with a wrist already streaked in grime. The skin around your eyes stings. Still, you don't stop. Your mouth tastes of dust. Not just dryness, but grit. The fine, sandy film that rides on air and coats your tongue, no matter how tightly you keep your lips closed. Every breath brings more of it. Your teeth feel thick. When you shift your jaw, it crunches faintly, the sound muffled but clear inside your own skull. You want to spit, but you don't. Moisture is too valuable to waste. You swallow instead, and the sensation scrapes its way down your throat like ground bone. The muscles in your face twitch now and then, not from emotion, but from the persistent tension of squinting. The sun reflects off everything, the white stones, the pale soil, even the edges of cut stalks and old tools left half buried. You keep your gaze down, not in shame but survival. Looking up is worse. The sky offers nothing, no clouds, no wind, no sign that this moment will ever pass. You tell yourself it will. You always do. But part of you never believes it. Your tunic is soaked through at the chest and clings to your ribs like wet paper. Each movement peels it from your skin, only for it to reattach, hotter and heavier than before. The cloth at your waist rides up slightly with every step, sticking in places you can't reach, rubbing skin raw in thin, painful lines. You shift your grip on the basket, but it makes no difference. The weight hasn't changed, only your strength. Your arms feel hollow now, not empty, but light in a way that speaks of depletion rather than freedom. You hear your own breathing, shallow, nasal, rasping just above the edge of a cough. You bend again to pull a cluster of vine, and the heat rushes to your head, filling your ears with a low whine. When you straighten, black spots gather at the corners of your vision. You don't stop, you pause just long enough to let the darkness fade, then take the next step. And the next, someone speaks in the distance. Not to you, just to speak or to shout, or to mark their presence in a world where sound is the only form of resistance. You don't answer. Your throat won't allow it. A fly crawls along your cheek, tracing the edge of your jaw toward your ear. You flick it away, and it returns, as they always do. The sweat no longer cools you. It just makes you slick, heavy, slippery in your own skin. A blister has formed on your palm, the skin puffy and pale around a dark red center. You squeeze the handle of your tool tighter, and it bursts. You feel the sting, but it doesn't change your grip. You move forward. You bend again. You pull. You blink. The sun watches. The sun presses. The sun bakes. And you endure. Because there is nothing else. Because the work remains. Because the day is not over. Not even close. You don't sit. You lean. Just enough to take the weight off your knees. Not enough to give your back the idea that the day is done. The shadow you found is barely wide enough to cover your body, falling at a tight angle from the low wall beside the tool shed. The stones radiate stored heat, but at least they're not giving off light. The sun is just overhead now, flattening everything it touches, bleaching the color out of the earth. You roll your shoulders forward and press them into the wall, letting your spine hang a little loose, your hands resting on your thighs, sticky with old sap and fresher sweat. Your palms leave prints when you lift them. You look down and realize you're still holding the fig. Small, bruised on one side, split slightly at the seam, the inside glistening with syrup. You hadn't even realized you'd taken it from the basket. You press your thumb into the soft spot and tear it open without ceremony. The skin comes apart with a wet sound, revealing the pulp inside. Red, granular, glossy in the dim light. You know it's overripe, probably from yesterday's pile. You should have eaten it earlier, but you didn't. And now, as the smell hits you, thick, sour-sweet, dense, your stomach clenches with a different kind of urgency. You raise it to your mouth and bite. It sticks to your lips, to your teeth. Seeds crunch faintly between your molars, and the juice trails down your chin. You don't wipe it. The juice finds your neck, slides along the curve of your collarbone, joins the rest of the sweat already gathering there. You finish the fig in 3 more bites, slow and silent. You don't savor it. You just let it happen. The sugar makes your mouth twitch, not from pleasure, but surprise. Something sweet, something soft. Even if it's warm, even if it's bruised, it's not more bread. And for a moment, that's enough. You suck the last pulp from your fingers, one by one. The dirt under your nails tastes like the field, metallic, bitter, grounding. You don't flinch. There's no need. You spit out a piece of stem and look at your hand. The juice has mixed with the grime into a paste the color of old blood. It dries quickly in the heat. You rub your hands together once, twice, then wipe them on your thigh. The stain blends with the older ones. Around you, others do the same in different ways. Some eating olives, some gnawing on dried roots. One man chewing a clove of something sharp-smelling, maybe garlic. No one talks. Voices are a luxury in the heat. The fig sits in your belly like a warm stone. Not enough to fill, but enough to quiet the sharpness for a while. You close your eyes just briefly and feel the throb in your temples settle by half a beat. When you open them, the light has shifted again. The shadow is shrinking. A fly lands on your arm, tasting the sugar there, and you swat it without commitment. Another buzzes past your ear. You push off the wall and straighten your back, slow and careful. Your knees complain, and your spine cracks faintly. The rest period is over, even if you didn't decide it. There's work to finish. Always more work. You look at the ground where the fig's skin fell, a smear of color against the dust. For a moment, it looks almost rich, almost beautiful. Then the wind catches it, pushes it against the wall, where it sticks and flattens into nothing. You turn. You lift your basket again. The strap sticks to your shoulder and the weight returns. The fig is gone. The taste remains in your mouth, faintly sweet, oddly sour, enough to remember, not enough to matter. You walk back into the light. The moment you leave the shade, the heat reclaims you. It presses down harder than before, as if the short pause you took somehow gave the sun permission to intensify. Your feet sink slightly into the dust now, not because it's deeper, but because your legs are slower. The ground feels heavier, not in substance, but in intent, as though it's resisting each step, pulling back with every motion. You reach the row you left unfinished, tools waiting in place, as though the moment of rest had been imagined. You bend without thinking, but your knees don't fold the same way anymore. The stiffness has settled into them like a second skeleton. Your back tightens on the way down. Your shoulders groan when you reach forward, and your neck doesn't want to turn. You reach for the vine. It's stubborn. The roots cling tighter to the dirt now, as if they too know it's the hottest part of the day and refuse to be disturbed. The blade in your hand feels heavier than it did an hour ago. Not by weight, but by gravity. Each swing requires more thought, more direction, more follow-through. You catch yourself holding your breath, not from strain, but to brace against the wave of heat that rises every time you move. You exhale slowly, then forget to inhale again until your lungs protest. You cough once, dry and weak, and go on. The ground beneath you radiates warmth up through your feet, a constant pulse that blurs the line between surface and skin. The soil is no longer dry, it's baking. Not enough to burn, but enough to smother. The scent has changed too. It no longer smells like dust, but like something stewing. Old plants, sun-baked roots, the soft rot of life too long exposed. You wipe your forehead and smear more than you remove. The cloth at your waist is soaked now, clinging, dragging slightly with every movement. A blister on your heel has split open. You feel it with each shift of balance, but you don't check it. You won't. The tools no longer fit your grip. Your fingers are stiff and puffy. The skin on your palm, where the blister tore earlier, has started to tighten, shiny and raw. You wrap your hand with part of the cloth that used to be clean, winding it between your fingers, not to protect, just to separate metal from skin. It helps. Slightly. You bend again, slower this time, knees spreading wider for balance, back curving not with precision, but surrender. You pull a handful of weeds. They come reluctantly, roots resisting, snapping only when you twist and yank. The motion sends a jolt through your shoulders. You hiss, but keep pulling. The sun presses harder. It's no longer something above. It's something in you, in the marrow, in the teeth, behind the eyes. You blink more now, not to see, but to clear the sting. The light doesn't move. Time doesn't pass. The next stalk, the next root, the next handful of dead growth. All of it repeats without distinction. You work like a stone falling down a slope, with inevitability. A shadow passes briefly. You don't look up. It's just a cloud, or a bird, or a trick of sweat in your eyes. It's gone before you can think about it. Your shirt sticks to your lower back now, and when you twist, it pulls painfully against the skin. You adjust it, half-hearted, and feel dust pour down your side as you move. The sensation is familiar. Dirt becomes part of you. It fills the folds, hides in the crooks, settles into your pores. When you finally straighten for a moment, just to stretch, your head spins. You pause. Wait. Let it settle. You don't drink. Not yet. There's still work to finish in this row, and water comes later, if it comes. You take another step forward. Your foot feels like it sinks a little deeper than before. The ground pulls. It always does. Especially now in the thickest hour, when the light does not shift, and every movement feels like a small betrayal of the body you're still asking too much from. You bend again. The work continues. The weight of the sun does not lift. Neither do you. It starts with a sound, Not loud, not alarming, just sudden. A thud, a shift in rhythm, the clatter of something wooden or metal hitting the ground. You don't look at first. You're too focused on pulling another knot of weeds from the soil, your body already deep in the pattern of bend, grab, twist, drop. But the moment lingers, just long enough to register as something different. You lift your head slightly, squinting through sweat and sunlight. A man about 10 paces away is down on one knee, one hand braced on the ground, the other gripping his tool like it might pull him upright. His bundle is on the ground beside him, spilled slightly. No one moves. No one says anything. There is no gasp, no shout, no instinct to gather around. It's not cruelty. It's just what is. He is not bleeding. He is not calling out. And so he is alone. You watch for a moment longer, only because you happen to see it. His face is turned away from you, but the shape of his back says enough. Rigid, strained, unwilling to start down longer than necessary. He shifts his weight slowly, tries once to rise and fails. Dust clings to his knees. His elbow shakes as he tries again. This time he makes it halfway, crouched with one hand on his thigh, breathing heavily. You glance away, not out of discomfort, but out of habit. Staring implies expectation. It suggests judgment, and there is none here. Everyone falls sometimes. Everyone stands if they can. If they can't, they crawl. And if they can't crawl, they wait until someone finishes their own row and decides, without words, to check in passing. But this man doesn't wait. He stands fully now, unsteady, shoulders hunched. He wipes his hands on his sides, picks up his bundle and walks back to where he was working before. The air shifts slightly around him, but no one acknowledges it. He has returned to motion, and so he is part of the field again, indistinct from the others. You lower your gaze and bend once more, feeling the slow pull in your spine. The moment of interruption has passed. Your hands reach for another vine. Your fingers close around the base, tug, feel the resistance. Somewhere to your left, a woman coughs. Farther off, a tool hits stone. Life goes on, not with drama, not with story, but with weight. The man who fell makes no sound. He doesn't limp, not obviously, though one foot drags slightly in the dust. You don't watch. He's working again, and that's what matters. Here, helping is not kindness, it's deviation. It breaks the rhythm. It suggests that someone has time to notice someone else, and no one does. Your own body reminds you of its limits. The ache in your thighs, the sting in your hands, the way your head pulses when you rise too fast. It could have been you. It might be you later. And when it happens, if it happens, you won't expect help either. You'll fall, brace yourself, check for injury. Then you'll rise if you can. That's the unspoken order of things. You do what your body allows until it doesn't. Then you wait, and then you continue. The man's fall has already been absorbed into the soil, the sound erased by wind and footsteps. There's no mark left where he landed, no indentation, just dust, disturbed, then settled again. You keep working. The field stretches ahead. There are more bundles to carry, more rows to finish, more hours to outlast. You don't speak. No one speaks. The man who fell is standing. That's enough. It starts with a sound, not loud, not alarming, just sudden. A thud, a shift in rhythm, the clatter of something wooden or metal hitting the ground. You don't look at first. You're too focused on pulling another knot of weeds from the soil, your body already deep in the pattern of bend, grab, twist, drop. But the moment lingers, just long enough to register as something different. You lift your head slightly, squinting through sweat and sunlight. A man about 10 paces away is down on one knee, one hand braced on the ground, the other gripping his tool like it might pull him upright. His bundle is on the ground beside him, spilled slightly. No one moves. No one says anything. There is no gasp, no shout, no instinct to gather around. It's not cruelty. It's just what is. He is not bleeding. He is not calling out. And so he is alone. You watch for a moment longer, only because you happen to see it. His face is turned away from you, but the shape of his back says enough. Rigid, strained, unwilling to stop down longer than necessary. He shifts his weight slowly, tries once to rise and fails. Dust clings to his knees. His elbow shakes as he tries again. This time he makes it halfway, crouched with one hand on his thigh, breathing heavily. You glance away, not out of discomfort, but out of habit. Staring implies expectation. It suggests judgment, and there is none here. Everyone falls sometimes. Everyone stands if they can. If they can't, they crawl. And if they can't crawl, they wait until someone finishes their own row and decides, without words, to check in passing. But this man doesn't wait. He stands fully now, unsteady, shoulders hunched. He wipes his hands on his sides, picks up his bundle and walks back to where he was working before. The air shifts slightly around him, but no one acknowledges it. He has returned to motion, and so he is part of the field again, indistinct from the others. You lower your gaze and bend once more, feeling the slow pull in your spine. The moment of interruption has passed. Your hands reach for another vine. Your fingers close around the base, tug, feel the resistance. Somewhere to your left, a woman coughs. Farther off, a tool hits stone. Life goes on, not with drama, not with story, but with weight. The man who fell makes no sound. He doesn't limp, not obviously, though one foot drags slightly in the dust. You don't watch. He's working again, and that's what matters. Here, helping is not kindness, it's deviation. It breaks the rhythm. It suggests that someone has time to notice someone else, and no one does. Your own body reminds you of its limits. The ache in your thighs, the sting in your hands, the way your head pulses when you rise too fast. It could have been you. It might be you later. And when it happens, if it happens, you won't expect help either. You'll fall, brace yourself, check for injury. Then you'll rise if you can. That's the unspoken order of things. You do what your body allows until it doesn't. Then you wait, and then you continue. The man's fall has already been absorbed into the soil, the sound erased by wind and footsteps. There's no mark left where he landed, no indentation, just dust, disturbed, then settled again. You keep working. The field stretches ahead. There are more bundles to carry, more rows to finish, more hours to outlast. You don't speak. No one speaks. The man who fell is standing. That's enough. The clay sits in a shallow pit near the edge of the yard, where rainwater once collected and never drained. It's not clean. Bits of straw, grit, insect wings, and old leaves float in the surface layer. Your job isn't to care what's in it, just to mix it until it binds, until it turns from loose sludge into something that will hold shape when slapped onto a wall. You crouch beside the pit and plunge both hands in. The texture thicker than water, heavier than mud. It clings to your wrists, pulling your skin down with it, sucking the warmth from your fingertips. At first, it feels almost cool, almost a relief from the heat of the field. But as your fingers spread and twist and churn the mixture, the resistance becomes clear. It doesn't yield easily. Your arms ache within minutes, your palms scrape across sharp flecks of stone, and the surface tension fights you on every stroke. You work without a rhythm. You just stir, and stir again. The clay gets into everything. Under your nails, into the cuts from the thorns, into the raw split where your blister tore. You feel it grinding between your fingers like fine sand, like powdered bone. It's alkaline. You know that from the sting. Not burning exactly, but something that bites deeper the longer it stays on the skin. Your wrists begin to itch. You scratch one with the edge of your thumb, but the clay only smears and sinks further. You switch hands, then stop bothering. There's no clean spot left on you now, and the sun has returned to your shoulders with full weight. Sweat rolls down your arms into the pit, mixing with the clay, changing its color by a shade you can't name. The more you stir, the thicker it gets, and the thicker it gets, the more it resists. You lean in harder, using your body weight, letting your back and thighs take the strain. But your hands do most of the work. They always do. You press the mixture between your fingers, testing its shape. Too loose still. You add a fistful of dry straw from the pile beside you. Old, sun-bleached, sharp at the tips, and mash it in. It pokes your knuckles, slides beneath your nails. You wince and keep folding. The clay makes sounds now. Wet slaps, sticky pulls, faint suction with every lift and drop. You know the sound you're waiting for, the feel of it shifting into a thicker mass. Not yet. You dig deeper, scraping the bottom, turning the older layers up to the surface. Something soft gives under your palm, a small root, maybe, or something once alive. You don't look. You just move it aside and keep going. The smell changes too. Not foul, just dense, earthy, a bit sour, a bit sweet. The kind of scent that sticks to your nose even when you've walked far away from it. You blink sweat from your lashes. It lands in the pit. You stir it in. Your hands are red now. Not just stained, but rubbed raw. The skin between your fingers has gone soft from soaking. The tips feel flayed, the nails lifting slightly from the beds. You rub them once on your tunic, but it's useless. The cloth is already coated in grit, and the movement only grinds more into the skin. The itching has turned into a low burn, not urgent enough to stop you, but sharp enough to stay at the front of your mind. You press one palm against your thigh to stretch your fingers. The joints crack, the knuckles sting. You return to the pit. The clay is thicker now, heavier, ready almost. You test a ball of it, pressing it into your palm. It holds. You form another, then another. The pile beside you grows slowly, misshapen lumps drying in the sun. Your hands ache, but they move without asking. This is what they do. This is what they know. And even as the sting deepens, even as the cracks in your fingers widen, you keep mixing. Because it has to be done. Because no one else will do it for you. Because the wall isn't finished. And because the day isn't over. The itch starts as a flicker, a faint tingling just below the curve of your neck, close to the shoulder where the cloth of your tunic clings wet against the skin. You try to ignore it. At first, you're mixing clay or carrying bundles or bent over a row of stubborn roots, and it's easier to pretend it's nothing. Just sweat drying, just a bit of straw brushing too close. But it doesn't fade. It spreads. A slow, crawling irritation that moves like heat under the skin, following the path of sweat and dust, collecting in the places you can't quite reach. Your shoulder twitches. You roll your neck. You press your chin to your collarbone and stretch, hoping movement will distract it away. It doesn't. The itch sharpens. Not unbearable, but precise. As if a splinter of heat has lodged beneath the skin and begun to pulse with each breath. You mutter under your breath, a sound without meaning, and finally reach up. Your fingers scratch through damp cloth and find the edge of the sensation. The relief is immediate, but shallow. It only feeds the fire. The skin gives easily, softened from hours of sweat and heat and friction. You scratch again, deeper this time, nails digging along the ridge between your spine and shoulder blade. You feel the skin break, a small tear, the sharp sting of salt sweat rushing into the wound. You flinch, not from pain, but from reflex. Then you scratch again. The sensation consumes everything else, louder than thirst, louder than fatigue, louder than the voice in your head telling you to stop. You drag your nails down until something wet follows. Not much, just a smear. The itching doesn't fade. It intensifies. It multiplies. Like the wound has become a door through which more discomfort enters. You swipe at it again and again, the same spot, the same motion. You're no longer chasing relief. You're just reacting, just trying to feel something that isn't heat or pressure or silence. When you stop, your fingers are dirty. The tips are dark with dried clay, sweat, and now a thin streak of red. You wipe them on your thigh without looking. The sting is deeper now. Not itch, but throb. A warning. But it doesn't matter. The flies are already there, hovering just close enough to be felt, landing on your shoulder, your neck, your arm. You brush them away and they return, drawn by the same salt and blood and damp that makes the air around you so thick. You shift the strap on your shoulder, but it rubs across the raw skin, and you bite your lip to keep from reacting. You don't check the wound. You don't cover it. You don't clean it. There's nothing clean to use. The same cloth that wiped your hands is soaked in everything you've touched today. The same fingers that scratched you have been in clay, in dirt, in blood. You return to work without transition. The moment passes. The pain remains, but pain is quieter now. As you move again, you feel the wound with every motion. The edge of your tunic rubs it raw, and when the wind shifts, even the air irritates it. But the itch is gone. It's been replaced by something familiar, something dull. You keep working, lifting, carrying, bending. The flies follow. You let them. The sun burns. You let it. The wound dries slowly beneath the heat, becoming tight and brittle. You wonder, briefly, if it will crack open again tomorrow. Probably. Maybe again the day after that. Maybe it will scab, then open, then scab again, never fully healing until the season changes. But that's not your concern now. Now it's just another part of the day, just another part of you. You scratch your arm once lightly, without thinking, then your side, then your neck again, but just near the wound, not on it. The itching is still there, waiting under the surface, ready to return. You work anyway, because that's what you do, because everything itches eventually. You realize it's gone the moment your hand comes up empty. The sickle, the same one you've been gripping since morning, isn't there anymore. You'd set it down just for a moment, to shift a bundle, to stretch your fingers, maybe to wipe sweat from your eyes. And now it's vanished. You glance around, squinting against the haze of light and motion. Nothing. The ground is uneven, broken by footprints, discarded stalks, and dust-choked weeds. A few steps away lies a pile of manure, still fresh, steaming faintly in the heat. You feel your stomach turn, not with revulsion, but with certainty. You already know. It must have slipped, rolled, or been knocked in. The weight of the bundle, the slope of the ground. It doesn't matter how. It's there now, somewhere beneath that wet, sour mound. You take a step toward it. No one says anything. No one laughs. This happens. You crouch beside the pile, your knees cracking, your sandals squelching softly in the thin layer of runoff around the base. The smell isn't new. It's part of everything now. The animals, the field, the corner of your home where waste collects before it's hauled away. But here it's concentrated, heavy, close. Your nose burns and your eyes begin to water. Not from emotion, but from the sheer weight of it in the air. You reach out a hand, hesitate, then drive it in. The manure is warm, spongy, layered with straw and undigested fragments. Your fingers push through with resistance. The mixture clinging to your skin in clumps, catching under your nails. You feel something hard, but it's only a rock. You move it aside and keep searching. Each handful is worse than the last, wetter, deeper, denser. The heat seems to rise from the pile itself, as if the sun is trapped inside it, steaming outward in waves. You work methodically, dragging your hand through the muck in slow, deliberate arcs. No part of you expects to stay clean. Your other hand joins the first, digging from a different angle, scooping and shifting until your forearms are coated. The texture varies, some parts thick and dry, others loose and slippery. The stench shifts with each movement, sharp and raw, rising into your sinuses until it's not just around you, but inside you. You stop breathing through your nose. It doesn't help. Something slimy slides across your wrist. You don't look. You don't stop. Your fingers brush wood, smooth, familiar. The handle. You grip it, pull, and it resists for a moment before sliding free, coated in a thick layer of brown and straw. You hold it up, letting the sunlight catch the edge of the blade. Dull, filthy, but intact. That's all you need. You wipe it on the nearest patch of ground, smear after smear, until most of the surface is visible again. You rise slowly, knees stiff, the back of your tunic pulling against your shoulders where the cloth stuck to your skin. Your arms are dripping now, manure mixed with sweat, running in lines down to your elbows. You don't bother to wash them. There's no clean water nearby, and no time. You grip the tool tighter, ignoring the squish in your palm. and return to the row you left. As you walk, the smell follows. It clings to you, moves with you, settles into your pores. But no one flinches when you pass. No one comments. This is not unusual. This is part of it. A tool lost is a task delayed, and nothing delays the day. You kneel again in the dirt. Plant your blade into the soil. Feel it catch. The work resumes. The filth stays. The sun stays. Your hands sting from broken skin and contact with things they weren't meant to hold. But they hold anyway. They always do. The well is visible long before you reach it, not because it stands tall, but because of the people clustered around it, motionless, waiting. You approach with slow steps, carrying 2 empty buckets, one in each hand. They're not heavy now, but your arms ache anyway, stretched and used and trembling from everything that came before. The handles bite into your fingers, the weight hanging just enough to pull your shoulders down and forward, shaping your whole posture into something bent. The line doesn't move. A woman leans against the stone ring of the well, holding the rope slack in her hand, her eyes half closed. Another man stands behind her with his jars already placed at his feet, arms crossed tight, like folding himself will help with the waiting. You find your place at the back. No one says anything. There's nothing to say. The sun presses down, and the buckets swing slightly with each breath you take, reminding you they will be full soon, and heavier still. The rope creaks with each pull. Someone raises a pail from the darkness below, water dripping from the bottom, darkening the stone and soaking into the earth. It's handed off, and the line moves forward by one. You shift your grip to rest the buckets against your thus. The rims press into your skin, and the wood is warm from the walk. You glance down into one. It's cracked at the seam, but not enough to leak much. Not yet. You adjust the angle so the crack faces up. The skin on your forearms is tight now, baked dry except where it's still smeared with what you dug through earlier. The residue itches, but you don't scratch. Your fingers are too tired. You flex them just once and feel how slow they respond. The sweat on your back begins to cool in small patches where your tunic no longer clings. You shift your feet. Dust rises. The man in front of you coughs once, spits, then goes quiet again. The line crawls. One person leaves, another steps forward. You remain still, gripping your buckets, trying not to think about the trip back. Full buckets are worse. They pull unevenly, slosh against your legs, strain the tendons in your wrists and elbows until you have to stop and rest, only to find there's no place to rest at all. Just ground too hot to sit on and shade too far to reach. You'll take breaks anyway, short ones, crouching in the smallest shadow, letting the water settle before starting again. But that's later. For now, your job is to wait. Your shoulders throb in dull rhythm. You roll one forward, then the other, but the relief is temporary. The handles creak faintly. Your skin has started to stick to the wood. You shift the buckets again, this time holding both in one hand to rest the other. The muscles seize from the change. You exhale slowly and switch hands. It makes no difference. The ache just trades sides. At last, your turn comes. You step forward and set the buckets down with care. The well's edge is worn smooth, cool to the touch. You grip the rope and begin to lower the bucket. Not yours, but the one tied permanently to the pulley. It sinks slowly, dragging the rope from your hands. each inch a small relief from lifting, even though you know what's coming next. The splash below echoes faintly, and you begin to pull. The rope is damp, frayed, rough where others have gripped it before you. Water rises slowly, steadily, then faster as the bucket clears the surface and breaks into air. You brace your foot against the stone, lean back, and draw it upward. Muscles scream. You don't listen. When the bucket reaches the rim, you haul it over and pour it into one of your own. Some spills. Most lands. The sound is thick, heavy, satisfying in a way nothing else has been today. You lower again, once more. The second bucket fills. You tie them with the rope you brought, lift both, and begin the walk back. Heavier now, louder now, no cooler, just different, just wetter. Your arms shake, you keep walking. The amphora doesn't balance the way it should. You hoist it up with both arms, pressing the curve of its belly into your ribs. The mouth tilted slightly away from you to keep it from sloshing. But it still sloshes. The surface of the water jumps with every step, shifting the weight suddenly, unpredictably. Your hands adjust without thinking, shifting your grip, tightening your elbows, locking the vessel against your side like a second torso. The clay is rough, dry where it hasn't touched the water inside, but warm from the sun, and already starting to slip in the crook of your arm. You should have tied it down, lashed it to a board, or used a smaller vessel. But this is what was there. This is what fits the need. So you carry it, step by step, one foot in front of the other, carefully navigating the path back toward the house, the yard, the others waiting for the water you've fetched. You can feel your arms begin to burn again, even though they never really stopped. The first spill is small, just a few drops over the rim as you lean too far to avoid a loose stone in the dirt. The water hits your leg and rolls down your shin, warm and sudden, carving a narrow trail through the dust on your skin. It surprises you, not with the sensation, but with how quickly the moisture disappears. The heat drinks it faster than you can register. A second splash follows, larger, as your fingers slip slightly and the amphora tilts. This time it pours down your thigh in a thin, steady stream. You clench your arms tighter, shifting the vessel back upright, the motion jarring your lower back with a sharp twinge. Your leg is wet now, from knee to ankle, and the feeling lingers. Not refreshing, not clean, just heavier. The water has carried dust and old sweat with it, turning the cloth of your tunic darker, sticky in places. You don't stop walking. You don't look down. You just feel it all settle against your skin. The trail home isn't long, but it stretches now, drawn out by the careful balancing of every step. Your foot strikes the ground with more caution, knees slightly bent, shoulders hunched to keep the amphora high. The spout bumps against your collarbone with every movement, and another trickle escapes with each shift. You've lost count of how many times it's spilled now. The clay is slick where your hands grip it, the condensation mixing with sweat, the edges beginning to slip no matter how tight you hold. You switch arms halfway through the walk, letting the weight shift awkwardly, the muscles in your opposite shoulder locking in protest. The wetness now spreads across both legs, the path of the water cutting through layers of salt and dirt, leaving behind irregular patterns that won't last the hour. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. Most of the water is still inside. Most of it will reach the pot, the bucket, the bowl waiting at home. But the weight feels less. You know that means something's already gone. You reach the yard and crouch slowly, carefully, knees creaking, calves trembling with the effort to lower the vessel without tipping it entirely. When the bottom finally touches earth, you let go with a gasp you hadn't meant to make. Your hands release the clay like it burned them. Your back straightens slowly. Your thighs are soaked, streaked with mud where water met dust, and your ankles itch where wetness pooled and dried. No one comments. Someone takes the amphora, lifts it, carries it inside. You rub your palms against your tunic, smearing damp clay into the same fabric already crusted from the field, the pit, the wall. You glance at your leg and see the patterns the water left, already fading into the heat. You turn and step back toward the path again. There's more to carry. There's always more. The water you brought wasn't all that was needed, and what spilled was just the cost of carrying. You don't speak. You don't rest. You walk. Again. The door hangs open, propped with a stone, as it always is during the heat. The walls trap the warmth like a kiln, holding onto it long after the sun has begun to slide behind the hills. You step inside slowly, blinking against the sudden dimness, the light behind you replaced by smoke and buzzing. The air is thicker here, still and close, and it wraps around you like a damp cloth. Smoke curls from the small cooking pit near the center, low and inefficient, fed with damp twigs and dung that sputter and smolder more than burn. Your eyes sting within seconds. You don't cough. There's no point. The smell is familiar, almost invisible from repetition. Cooked lentils, animal fat, straw, sweat, and something rotting that you can never quite find. Your feet stick slightly to the packed earth floor, softened by the day's humidity. You step over a cracked bowl, around a sleeping form, toward the corner where the water pots sit, already sweating from your earlier trip. The flies rise when you enter, disturbed by your movement, by your scent, by nothing in particular. They fill the air in small clouds, then settle again on the wall, on the rim of a pot, on the cloth draped over what remains of yesterday's bread. One lands on your neck and crawls toward your ear. You swat it lazily, already knowing it will come back. They always do. The windows are just slits, high and narrow, useless for light, worse for air. The only draft comes from the door, and even that carries more heat than relief. Someone has been cooking, though the food is finished. The coals remain, glowing under a thin crust of ash, warming the room from the center like a dying heart. The smoke hasn't left. It never really does. It collects in the thatch above, in your clothes, in the folds of your skin. You breathe through your mouth and try not to taste it. You drop the tool you've carried all day near the wall. It lands with a soft thud, leaving a faint mark in the dirt that's already filled with others. The walls are low, the ceiling lower still, and even the air feels worn. You sit where you always do, a flat stone near the wall, its edge smoothed by time and use. Your body sighs into it without making a sound. Every part of you hums with fatigue, not sharp, not demanding, just a constant murmur beneath the skin. The flies return. One walks across your forearm, another lands on your knee. You let them. You're too tired to shoo them away, and they've long stopped reacting to sudden movement anyway. You glance around the room. A bowl sits by the hearth, half filled with something pale and thick. It's food, or something like it. You're not hungry yet, but you will be. Hunger arrives not with urgency, but inevitability. A child murmurs in sleep nearby, or maybe it's someone else. You can't tell. The smoke has blurred the edges of everything: sound, shape, smell. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand. It leaves a streak across your skin, darker than the rest. Outside, the light is fading. Inside, it's already gone. The fire gives off a weak orange glow, casting long shadows that shift with each flicker. The room moves with them, slowly, subtly, as if remembering something it can't quite say. You lean forward and adjust the edge of your tunic where it clings to your side, now cold and damp from the spilled water. The flies don't leave. The smoke doesn't rise. The air doesn't cool. And yet this is home. This single room, this heavy warmth, this hum of insects and slow-burning wood. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to rest from seeing. It helps. Not much, just enough. You'll eat soon or not. You'll lie down or not. There are still things to be done, but they'll wait. For now, you breathe shallowly, sit quietly, and feel the weight of the house settle back onto you. Not cruelly, not gently, just completely. The bowl is nearly empty now, save for the bits no one wants. A smear of pulp, a crust too hard to chew, something sour left at the bottom that even hunger doesn't make better. You scrape it slowly with your fingers, coaxing the last of the meal into your mouth, more by habit than appetite. The rest you carry outside, careful not to spill along the way. The light has thinned to gray. The air still holds the day's heat, but with a stagnant kind of stillness that suggests it won't last. As you step into the yard, the smell shifts from smoke and sweat to waste and dust. The corner where trash collects is darker than the rest, a shallow pit in the earth, ringed with stones and flies. You bend your knees, lower your hand, and let the remains slide from the bowl. A thick plop, a few scraps. The sound brings motion. From the shadows, the dogs appear. Not yours, not anyone's really. Half wild, ribs visible, ears flattened from old wounds, their tails neither wagging nor still. They keep their distance, but not their attention. You feel them before you see them, eyes fixed on your hands, heads low, their hunger the only thing louder than their breath. One steps forward, then stops. You don't flinch. You've seen them before, day after day. They watch and wait. Sometimes they snarl at each other, sometimes they growl at you, but mostly they just watch. You back away from the pit, slowly, leaving the scraps exposed. The dogs move in, 2 at first, then more, silently, quickly, with snapping teeth and cautious steps. They devour what's there, licking at the stones, digging with their paws, even biting at one another when there's nothing left to fight for. You sit nearby, bowl still in hand, your own stomach leaden from the thin meal. The dogs eat louder than you did. Their mouths make wet noises, their tongues loud against bone and dirt. You watch without judgment. This is what there is. This is how things survive. One of the dogs, smaller than the rest, limps close to you. Its eyes are cloudy, its fur patchy, its jaw crooked from something long ago. It stares at you while licking its nose, then glances at the bowl. There's nothing left inside, but it doesn't seem to care. You tip it forward anyway. The dog sniffs the rim, licks it twice, then walks away. You wipe the edge on your tunic. It leaves a wet mark. You don't mind. You barely notice. The smell of the pit is stronger now. The dogs are growling again, but not at you. You're not important enough to threaten. just another body near the waist. Behind you, the house flickers with firelight. Someone calls out, but not for you. Voices overlap. Quiet, tired, close. You run your thumb along the rim of the bowl, feeling the chips and grooves carved by years of use. You wonder how many hands have held it before yours. You wonder how long it will last. The dogs are quieter now. Some have already left. The smallest one curls into a ball near the wall, belly still growling, but eyes half shut. You rise slowly, legs stiff, joints cracking softly in the evening air. You leave the bowl by the door. Someone will clean it. Or not. You glance once more toward the pit, now still, now dark, and step back inside, brushing past the dogs that remain. Your presence neither welcome nor feared, just part of the rhythm, just part of the end of day. Under the low ceiling, the smoke gathers. It clings to the rafters like mist that forgot how to rise. You crouch beside the cooking pit, one hand shielding your face, the other reaching for a cracked length of wood that smells of mildew and damp soil. The fire beneath the pot is weak, mostly coals now, glowing faintly under thin branches that won't catch without coaxing. You poke at them, stir them, feed them small twigs that snap and crumble more than burn. The smoke retaliates. It doesn't go up. It curls outward, spreading along the floor, thickening as it crawls toward your legs, your hands, your eyes. You cough before you even realize you're coughing. The back of your throat goes dry, then rough, then raw. Your eyes water. You blink once, twice, and keep feeding the fire. The stew inside the pot doesn't boil. It just sits, warm but unmoving, reluctant, like the room around it. The others don't speak. They sit with their backs to the wall or stretch out on mats made from straw and patched cloth. One child sleeps, another chews on a piece of reed, watching you without interest. The fire is yours to manage tonight. The shift is unspoken but always understood. Who feeds, who stirs, who breathes in the most smoke so the others don't have to. You reach for another piece of kindling and drop it in, watching the ember flare and fade. A small trickle of heat brushes your knees, but not enough to balance the sting in your lungs. You clear your throat and regret it immediately. The sound scrapes inside your chest, and your next breath brings more smoke. There's no window, just a slit high on the wall that does nothing but let in heat during the day and dark during the night. The door is ajar, but the air outside is still, so still. Nothing moves, nothing leaves. Your hands begin to blacken again, not from filth, but from soot. The lines of your fingers disappear under a layer of ash and grease. You wipe them on your thigh and keep working. The pot shifts slightly as something inside it breaks apart. You lean closer, squinting through the haze, and stir it with a split wooden spoon. The surface ripples once, then settles. Whatever flavor it holds won't come from ingredients. It will come from the effort, from the smoke, from the long, slow waiting that makes things taste more than they are. You sit back on your heels. The fire spits, a log pops and throws sparks that fade before they reach the air. Your nose runs. You wipe it on the back of your wrist. The others barely look up. The silence is full, not peaceful, just enough to carry you through another hour. Eventually, the pot will be hot enough. Someone will ladle it out into rough bowls, passing them without ceremony. The taste will be the same as always. Dull, earthy, burned around the edges. No one will complain. You won't either. You'll eat it like you tend the fire. Quietly, mechanically, with a part of yourself detached. And when the fire dies down again, and the smoke thickens one last time, you'll cover the coals with ash, push the pot aside and step away from the pit. Your skin will reek of smoke. Your breath will taste like it. The cough will stay with you long after you lie down. You'll carry it into your dreams and wake with it in your chest. But for now, the stew is warm, the coals are glowing, and your job is done. The smoke is still here. It always is. But you have stopped noticing it. Or maybe it has simply become a part of you. The bowl is older than you are. You can see it in the cracks that run across its surface like dried riverbeds, in the way it tilts slightly to one side when placed on the ground. Someone once tried to mend it. A bit of pitch near the base, long worn smooth. You hold it with both hands, fingers curled under the uneven rim, and bring it close to your face. The steam rises faintly, more warmth than scent. There is no real smell, just the vaguest impression of wet grain, boiled root, maybe a shred of something green. The surface is thin, nearly clear in places, with a few soft lumps floating just beneath. You stir with a piece of flat bread, already dry and curling at the edges. It soaks up the liquid slowly, reluctantly, turning darker without gaining flavor. You chew. The bread crumbles. The stew slides past your tongue with no resistance and even less memory. You sit against the wall, knees drawn up, bowl balanced between them. Around you, others do the same. No one talks. The sound of eating small. A quiet clink of pottery. A breath through the nose. The soft slurp of someone too tired to chew. There is no ceremony here. No gratitude. Just food, such as it is. You lift another spoonful to your mouth. The wood tastes more than the stew does. You swallow. You don't remember how many spoonfuls it's been. Enough to not be hungry. Not enough to feel full. The bowl grows lighter by degrees. You scrape the sides, gathering the last bits, careful not to break the thin line of repair. One crack has deepened since last time. You trace it with your thumb and imagine how it would feel to have nothing to eat from. You finish anyway. There's no point in wondering. Your belly warms slightly, not in comfort, but in function. It's not satisfaction, just temporary quiet from the place inside you that always asks for more. You wipe the edge of the bowl with the same piece of bread and place it beside you. There are no seconds. There rarely are. You lean your head back and close your eyes for a moment. The taste lingers, bland, faintly bitter, but tolerable. You've had worse. You've had less. The room is still smoky, though the fire has faded to a low orange line. One of the children has fallen asleep, holding an empty cup. An older woman coughs twice, then shifts on her mat. A dog outside barks once sharply, then stops. The night settles a little deeper, folding over the house like another blanket made of dust and air. You run your tongue along your teeth. They feel rough, like the grain you chewed. You're thirsty again, but the water will come later, or not at all. You pick at a thread in your tunic. Your hands are still dark from the fire. A bit of ash clings to your lip. You don't brush it away. The stew is gone. The hunger is not, but it's quiet for now. That's enough. You shift your legs, stretch your back, and let the weight of the day settle across your shoulders one more time. There will be more food tomorrow, or there won't. Either way, you'll eat what's given, from the same bowl, in the same silence. And still you'll wake, and still you'll sit, and still you'll scrape the last warmth from the bottom. Not because it's good, not because it's enough, but because it's there. And you are too. The house is quiet now, but not the world beyond its walls. The clay holds the heat from the day, but not the sounds of others. You sit with your back against it and feel it vibrate faintly as voices rise on the other side. At first, it's a low murmur, indistinct, just the rhythm of speech, the occasional pause, a word repeated once or twice. Then it sharpens. A woman's voice, brittle and fast. A man's, deeper, slower, but rising with it. There is no effort to keep it private. There is no way to. The wall between you is hardly thicker than your hand. Packed clay dried by years of sun, patched with straw and time. You close your eyes, but the sounds do not soften. They move through the wall, around your head, into the still air of your room. Not like eavesdropping, more like invasion. Not theirs. Yours. You wish you didn't understand the words. They argue about something small, a missing tool, a spoiled pot, someone not doing what they promised. You don't know the details and you don't want to. You know the tone. You've heard it in your own voice. You've heard it in others. It's not anger so much as exhaustion with a sharp edge, the kind that builds up in quiet layers until something shifts, spills, and suddenly it all pours out, louder than it has any right to be. You sit still, trying not to listen, trying not to care, but the voices weave through your thoughts like smoke. The woman says something sharp, too fast to follow. The man responds with silence, then something quieter, lower, that you can't make out. A pause, then another burst, not louder, just tighter. A child cries in the background, or maybe it's someone coughing. The walls are too thin to tell the difference. You glance toward your own doorway. The cloth that hangs there barely moves. The air is still. The light from the hearth has dimmed to a dull red glow. No one in your house speaks. You shift on your mat, the straw beneath it creaking softly. But the voices from next door continue, undisturbed. You wonder if they know you hear. You wonder if they care. There is no privacy here. Not really. Just the illusion of space, a few feet of earth and plaster, enough to mark, this is mine, but never enough to keep anything truly out. Their words wind down eventually, not with resolution, just fatigue. The sounds blur again into murmurs, then into nothing. You wait a few moments more before you move. Even the silence feels shared. In the quiet that follows, you hear the shift of someone rolling over, the scrape of a bowl against the floor, the yawn of a neighbor trying to settle into sleep. These things you don't mind. They feel honest, normal. But the voices from before still echo in the corners of your mind. Not the words, just the weight of them, the force. You know what it is to be tired of someone and still love them. You know what it is to be heard when you wish you weren't. You lie down slowly, curling toward the wall that separates you from their life. It's cool against your cheek, rough and uneven. You close your eyes and listen to your own breathing. The wall gives no comfort. The night gives no hush. But still, you're here. And so are they. And sometimes that's all survival is. Not peace, not quiet. Just endurance shared through thin, breakable walls. The barrel stands just outside the door, half shaded by the lean-to where tools hang from rotting rope. It's made of old staves held together by rusted iron bands, and the water inside hasn't been clear in weeks. A film drifts across its surface, the color of dust and sun-rotted leaves. You dip a clay cup, tilt it, and let the warm, faintly sour liquid splash onto your feet. It isn't cold enough to refresh you, nor clean enough to trust. But the moment the water hits your skin, you exhale through your teeth. The aches of the day live in your soles, in the raw edge of your heel where a sandal strap rubbed all morning. You sit on the low step, barefoot, legs bent, and pour again. The second splash is no clearer than the first, but it lifts the grit, loosens the crust of dried mud and sweat clinging to your skin. A small mercy, not comfort, but contact. You rub with one hand, slow, circular motions that dislodge the dirt without removing the pain. The water pools in shallow puddles, turning brown beneath you, flowing toward the edge of the packed earth path like something embarrassed to be seen. Behind you, the house murmurs with the soft movements of others. The clink of a cup set down, the shift of someone lying flat, the faint scratch of nails against fabric as someone itches without meaning to. You pour again. This time the water runs down your ankle, into the worn crease where bone meets skin, and you shiver slightened despite the heat. A blister opened this morning and dried stiff during the day. Now it stings, waking again beneath the film of moisture. You say nothing. No sound escapes your throat. You've learned that pain, when answered with silence, sometimes forgets it exists. You scrub harder. You stop just short of bleeding. The sun is gone now, though the sky still holds color. A dusky, copper hue. You glance upward without lifting your head. The air smells of damp straw and wood smoke, tinged with the must of still water. It smells like the end of a long day in a place where water is precious and always too little. The barrel is half empty. It was never full. Rain hasn't fallen in nearly a week, and the neighbors are too proud to share from their own stores. You'll have to be careful. This rinse, this small indulgence, is not for hygiene. It's for sleep. You can't lie down with grit in your toes, with hardened mud tightening the cracks in your heel. Sleep is already a negotiation. This makes it less of one. You pour again, and this time you pause to let the cup rest in your hand. It smells faintly of something green, maybe moss, maybe rot. You don't care. It's not meant to please. Your fingers brush away the last stubborn clump of earth. The water now runs clear only in streaks. You tip the cup forward one last time, rinsing your left foot fully, letting the water fall over the arch and between the toes. You imagine, for just a second, how it would feel if it were cold, icy, alive. But the thought fades before you finish it. You set the cup on the barrel's rim and press your feet into the dry dirt, letting the warmth soak back in. They are clean enough. No bandage, no ointment, no fresh sandals will follow. Just these feet, and another dawn waiting to use them. You rub them dry with the hem of your tunic and rise slowly, letting your weight settle evenly across both legs. The sting returns, but less now. Dull, manageable. You look once more at the barrel. The surface ripples, then stills, then disappears into the night. The straw has gone soft beneath you, not with comfort, but with damp. It clings to your skin, presses against the small of your back with a faint chill that doesn't match the air. You shift slowly, trying to find a dry patch, but there are none. The mat, if it can be called that, is no more than a flattened pile of reeds and grasses gathered seasons ago, used and reused until their own smell was replaced by yours. Somewhere in the layers, moisture has settled. From spilled water, from sweat, from the breath of too many bodies in too small a room. You curl onto your side and feel the dampness sink into your tunic. Your shoulder touches the wall, clay, cool to the touch, but no cleaner. You stay still, then you feel it. A tiny bite. Then another. The faint pinch of movement across your shin. You swat once, miss. Again, miss. You sit up slowly, mouth closed, jaw tight. The ants are small, dark, fast. They live in the walls, in the crevices of the floor, in the forgotten places between woven baskets and door frames. Tonight, they are in your bed. You lift one leg and brush it with your palm, knocking off whatever you can feel, then the other. You check your arms, your neck, the edge of your belly where the tunic rides up. You find nothing, and still you itch. It's not pain, not yet. Just a reminder that this place belongs more to them than to you. You lie back down, but shift a little toward the edge of the mat. You fold your arm beneath your head, use the other to press the fabric tighter across your chest. The air smells of damp straw, ash, and old oil. One more ant crawls across your foot. You flick it away without opening your eyes. It makes no difference. You know they'll be back. Around you, others are already asleep, or pretending to be. A slow breath, a rustle, the scratch of nails on skin. You stare into the darkness, counting the small sounds, letting them fill the space in your mind where comfort might otherwise live. You think of other nights, some worse, some the same, none better. The body learns not to ask for softness. It learns to be still, to ignore what it can't fix. You pull your knees toward your chest and shift again, pushing your hip into the driest part of the mat. Dampness seeps through anyway. The itch at your ankle returns. You don't move. There's no use in moving. The ants come and go just like the wind through the wall, just like the heat in the morning. Nothing stays away for long. Eventually, you grow used to it. Not comfortable, just accustomed. The straw pokes into the thin fabric of your tunic, pricks your ribs and thighs, leaves faint patterns you'll carry into the next day. You exhale through your nose and let your eyelids close, not because you're ready, just because you must. The ants move again, and you feel them, but you don't react. The straw is damp, the ground is hard, the night is long, but you are here, and the mat is yours, and no one has asked you to leave. That is enough. You scratch once, then settle, and in the quiet, where no comfort waits, sleep begins. Not as peace, but as pause, because the day is done, and your body is too. The skin around the cut is red now, not the raw, fresh red of a new scrape, but the dark, angry hue that means it's been there too long. It started as something small, maybe from a thorn, maybe from stone, maybe from one of the tools whose splinters you no longer bother pulling. You don't remember how it happened. You just know it didn't heal. The flesh around it is puffy, warm to the touch even in this heat. And when you press it, lightly, almost without thought, it pulses. A pressure under the skin, dull and constant. It's not painful exactly, not in a way that stops you, but it draws your attention now, in the half-dark, when there's little else to do but feel your own body and the ways it's wearing down. You drag a nail across the edge of the wound, just enough to peel back the crust, just enough to let it breathe. A yellow bead appears, thick and slow. You wipe it with your thumb. It leaves a smear, dark in the firelight. You rub it off on the straw, then go back in. There is something satisfying in the ritual. You press again, dig slightly with the edge of your nail, trying to lift the layer of hardened skin that's formed a cap over the heat beneath. It stings. You keep going. There's no ointment, no salve, no clean cloth, just your fingers and whatever's left beneath your nails from the day. You know this isn't how wounds heal, but it's how they close. You don't think about the fever that might follow. You don't think about the swelling or the streaks or the dreams that come too hot and leave you shaking. You just want it open. You want it to stop throbbing. You want it to stop reminding you that even your own skin can betray you. You sit with one leg pulled up, the ankle resting across your opposite knee, examining the cut as if it might offer answers. It doesn't. It just glows faintly, angry and wet. You scratch around it. Not enough to open new wounds, just enough to quiet the itching that has crept in with the infection. The area smells faintly sour. You sniff your fingers out of habit, then grimace and wipe them again on the straw. The wound looks worse than this morning, but not bad enough to worry. Not yet. You've seen worse. You've seen feet twice their size with swelling, seen fingers blackened and twisted, seen someone lose a whole arm over something smaller than this. But that was them. This is you, and you're still here. You press once more, then let it be. There's nothing left to squeeze, nothing left to drain. Just the low, hot throb of flesh fighting itself. You lie back again, folding your arms behind your head, the sting in your leg fading now that you've stopped touching it. You'll forget about it tomorrow, until you bump it or kneel on it or catch it with your own fingers. It'll remind you. But for now, you can almost ignore it. You breathe in, slow, shallow. The night doesn't bring coolness, but it brings stillness. And in that stillness, you learn to live alongside the pain, like a neighbor you don't greet but can't avoid. You feel the crust begin to form again, sealing in the heat, making a fresh roof over the wound. It won't last. You'll scratch it off again tomorrow, or the next day, or the next. But for tonight, it holds. And in a world that offers no healing, only pauses, that's something. That's enough. The question arrives not with urgency, but with a soft drift, like dust caught in a shaft of fading light. You lie there, on the same mat you've slept on for years, your fingers resting on your chest, your breath slow and shallow, and you ask yourself something simple. What day is it? Not aloud. Just in the quiet space behind your eyes. The answer doesn't come. Not at first. You search through the sensations of the day, the weight of the sun, the angle of the shadows, the number of times someone passed by with a basket of grain, but nothing distinguishes this day from the others. There was work, there was heat, there was bread, there was silence. You press your tongue against the roof of your mouth and try again. Perhaps it's Thargelion or Skiraphorion. But that's not the kind of day you meant. You meant Tuesday, or Friday, or the name people use to divide time in ways that feel clean. You can't remember the last time you needed to. You think back. How many mornings like this? How many nights? The days have bled into one another like ink on damp parchment. The seasons still pass, that much you know. The rains come, then go. The olives ripen, are picked, are pressed. But within those seasons, the individual days have vanished. You try to recall the last time you counted. Maybe during the last festival. Maybe when someone died. Maybe when a trader came and mentioned a date. But that was months ago. Or more. You count the scars on your arm instead, as if they might give you a calendar. That one from the fig tree. That one from the scythe. That one from a dog. But they do not speak of time. Only of repetition. The same motions. The same risks. The same injuries. You think of how many mornings began with a cough and ended with sore feet. How many evenings you've lain exactly like this, blinking into the dark, wondering nothing and everything at once. Perhaps it was always like this. Perhaps your father lay this way, and his father before him, each of them thinking they were the first to lose track. You wonder if the priests keep count, or if the city officials know what year it is. If they do, they don't share it with you. The calendar is for those who have choices, for those who can plan, for those who might do something different tomorrow. You will wake. You will work. You will eat if there is food, and you will sleep again. You do not need a name for that. It happens anyway. Still, part of you reaches toward the memory of structure. Market day, the full moon, the time when the neighbor's daughter was born. You mark time by people now, by who's still here and who's not, by the faces that age and the backs that stoop and the sudden absence that no one mentions until days later. You remember more deaths than dates. You stare at the ceiling, where the dim shapes of rafters fade into shadow. You think, is this the 10th day since the last rain? Or the 12th? Did you work the fields for 3 days this week? Or 5? You don't know, and no one will ask. The body keeps its own time. Your hands are rougher, your breath shallower, your patience thinner. These are the only measurements that count, not the days of the week, not the months, just the accumulation of wear, of fatigue, of small injuries that never truly healed. And even that, you forget. You forget more than you keep. What you ate 3 days ago, what someone said last week, the sound of your own voice when it was not tired. You forget. And the forgetting becomes easier than remembering. You stop chasing the answers. You let the question drift. How many days? Enough. More than one. Fewer than forever. You close your eyes. Let it pass. Let it all pass. The darkness has deepened, but it never brings silence. In the corner of the room, someone coughs. A dry, persistent sound, soft at first, then sharp enough to echo briefly against the clay walls. It's an old cough, a habitual one, worn in like a rut in a path. You've heard it before. You'll hear it again tomorrow. There's no medicine, no remedy, no concern. Just the sound of someone else's lungs reminding you they're still working. You turn onto your side, trying to ease the weight on your hip, trying to find a spot on the straw mat that isn't damp or already shaped by another night's sleep. The mat answers with a faint crunch, and the person beside you shifts in response, muttering something that never becomes a word. You whisper no apology. Everyone understands. There is no luxury of stillness here. Every movement ripples. Every breath belongs to the room. The itching begins at your ankle. You scratch absently, then realize too late that it's not a random itch. It's a bite. The kind that welts. The kind that spreads. A mosquito has found its way in. Perhaps more than one. You feel the faint electric buzz near your ear, and your hand shoots up in reflex, swatting the air. Nothing. The buzzing returns, higher now, moving from one side of your head to the other. You bury your face into the crook of your arm, pressing hard to block it out. It helps. A little. The itch on your ankle grows. Another appears behind your knee. Your skin feels tight, hot, restless. Not from illness, from life. From bodies pressed together in a warm room, from the thick scent of sweat and oil, from the slow exhale of the day rotting into night. You scratch again. You press a nail into the bite until it stings. Relief, temporary and sharp. Someone coughs again. Closer this time. The air is thick with it. The noise, the warmth, the shared breath. A baby whimpers briefly, then falls quiet. The buzz returns, this time near your neck. You shift, slowly, so as not to jostle the others, and pull the edge of your tunic higher. It won't help, but it gives you something to do. You hear a foot scrape straw. Someone sighs. You press your knees together to still the urge to twitch. Sleep doesn't come like a wave. It doesn't settle gently. It circles, unsure, waiting for your body to give up before it does. You close your eyes and focus on the ceiling you cannot see. You count the sounds, the cough, the buzz, the breath, the rustle, the scratch. You match your breath to theirs, finding a rhythm in the discomfort, a dull harmony of shared inconvenience. You know this chorus. It has played every night for years. Eventually, the edge of awareness begins to fade. Not all at once, but in slivers. You stop reacting to the bites. You stop noticing the coughs. The buzz still hovers, but it grows fainter, not from distance, but from disinterest. Your fingers rest finally at your sides, no longer clawing, no longer swatting. Your body has given up its argument with the night. The itch is still there. The warmth still presses in. The sounds still stir the air, but you have stopped answering. The mat does not soften. The room does not grow cooler. But you sink into both. Surrender becomes sleep, the kind that isn't deep, but deep enough. Just enough to carry you away from the edge of now. You fall asleep not because you're at peace, not because it's over, but because it's what comes next. And even the buzzing, the endless, droning, shrill little reminder that your body is not yours alone, becomes part of the lullaby. The room is still dark when your eyes open. There is no moment of clarity, no gentle rise from the depth of rest, only a dull return. A slow awareness of weight, of ache, of the straw digging into your side in the same place it did the night before. Your mouth is dry. Your arms are stiff. Your eyes itch from smoke and sleep, but they open. Not with purpose, not with hope, just because the body, worn down and used up, still obeys the rhythm it no longer questions. A cough stirs in the corner. Someone shifts and exhales through their nose. The day hasn't started yet, not really. But it will. You know it will. You know because it always does, even when no one wants it to. Even when there is nothing new waiting for you beyond the door. Even when you would rather stay folded into the damp mat and disappear into the silence of unmade choices. You do not move at first. Your legs remain bent. Your hands, still tingling from the way you slept on them, rest on your chest like forgotten tools. You stare at the ceiling, or where you think the ceiling is. The darkness has not yet thinned enough to show it. You wait. For what? You're not sure. Perhaps for the noise of someone else rising. Perhaps for the small shuffle that breaks the spell. You are not ready. You are not rested. But you are here. You scratch your neck, feel the familiar sting of broken skin and dried sweat, and wonder briefly if this is the day you stop. You don't know what that would look like. Not moving, not eating, not speaking. Just lying still until something changes. But nothing would change. They'd step over you. Work would still need to be done. The field doesn't pause for weakness. The fire doesn't build itself. So instead, slowly, painfully, you sit up. Your spine protests. Your hip cracks. The mat creases in complaint beneath you. Your hand brushes away something, straw, or perhaps a beetle, and you reach for your sandals, the same ones, worn and broken. One with a strap tied crudely from an old rag, the other stiff from dried mud and last week's rain. You slip them on without thought. You don't wonder what it's like to have new ones. You don't imagine the feel of leather that hasn't molded to the shape of your calluses. Such things belong to stories, to people you'll never meet. Your feet touch the cold dirt floor, and that alone is enough to remind you, this is your life. You do not want it, but you have it. You do not choose it, but you carry it. Still hunched, you press your palms against your knees and rise, vertebra by vertebra, the way one lifts a sack of stones. The morning offers nothing in return. No light yet. No breeze. Just the same air, the same smells, the same distant thump of someone stirring a pot too early. You stretch, if only to test that everything still works. Muscles pull, joints lock, but you remain upright. You breathe, shallow and slow, as if too much would be wasteful. You rub at your eyes, then your chest. You hear someone mutter in their sleep. Another cough, the scrape of a ladle, and in all of it, you are no more important than the tools outside, than the firewood stacked by the door. But you are here. That is the truth of it. Not glorious, not dramatic, just present. And that, for now, is enough. You wake. You rise, you prepare to do it all again. Not because it matters, not because you hope, but because you're still here. And perhaps someone else is too. And that was just one day. A day without glory, without peace. Just breath, effort, and silence. If you made it to the end, perhaps you understand now. Survival was never about strength. It was about enduring. And somehow, even then, they did.